I did not know one text message could turn my whole life in a new direction. I was sitting on my couch with leftover pasta, half watching some boring show, when my phone lit up with a message from my boss. 3 words. 3 small words that changed everything. But I should start from the beginning. My name is Marcus Chen. For 3 years, I've been the executive assistant to Victoria Reed, CEO of Horizon Tech. She started the company in a tiny apartment and turned it into something worth millions. People write articles about her. She speaks at conferences. Investors fight for a chance to eat dinner with her. Victoria is the kind of smart that scares people. She can scan a budget in seconds and see every problem. She remembers the names of interns. She asks the janitor about his son's soccer games. She walks through the office and everyone straightens up a little. She is calm, sharp, kind, and impossible not to notice. I bring her coffee. I manage her calendar, read her emails, fix her printer, and make sure she eats at least one real meal on the days she forgets. I also happen to be in love with her. Of course I am. It is the oldest story. Assistant falls for the boss. I tell myself it is different with Victoria. I know it is still a cliché, but try explaining that to my chest at 3 in the morning when I cannot sleep, and I am replaying every smile, every time she touched my arm, every time she said my name. That Friday night, we were in her glass office, the city lights behind her, like another wall of stars. We were going over quarterly reports. Usually when we did this, she was all business, no distractions, no jokes, just focus. This time something was off. She kept looking at her phone. Once, then again, then again. 3 times in 5 minutes. Her jaw was tight. Her pen kept tapping against the table in a fast rhythm. "Everything okay?" I asked, trying to sound casual. She glanced up at me. "Fine, just my mom. She keeps reminding me about dinner tonight." The way she said fine told me it was not fine at all. After 3 years, I knew her little signs. The pen tap, when she is worried. The way she pushes her hair into a ponytail when she is about to work late. The polite tone she uses when she is angry, but does not want to show it. "Dinner sounds nice," I said. She let out a short laugh with no real joy in it. "It is not really dinner. It is another setup. My mom has been doing this for months. Tonight it is some venture capitalist named Garrett. Owns property on 3 continents. Great jawline, great portfolio. All the things my mother loves." My stomach dropped. I kept my face steady. "He sounds successful." "He sounds like a walking LinkedIn profile," she said, then sighed. "Sorry. That is not professional." "You are allowed to have feelings about your personal life," I told her. For once, she really looked at me. Not the quick, sharp look she gave in meetings, but a softer one that made my heart beat faster. For a second, I thought maybe she saw something in me. Then she glanced at her watch and stood up. "I should go home and change into something my mother will approve of," she said. Dress code for tonight is apparently perfect daughter. Quote. I watched her slide her laptop into her bag. I wanted to say many things. "Have fun. I hope he is boring. Please do not fall for him. Please do not fall for anyone who is not me. Have a good weekend, Marcus," she said at the door. "You too," I replied. I knew her weekend was not going to be good at all. 4 hours later, I was in my small apartment, eating leftovers straight from the container. The documentary on TV was about old bookstores, and I was pretending to care. My phone was on the coffee table, screen dark. Then it lit up. "Victoria, emergency. This is a disaster. Please help." I sat up so fast I almost dropped my fork. My chest tightened. My fingers moved before my brain caught up. "Me, what happened?" The reply came at once. "Victoria, he has talked about his real estate investments for 45 minutes without taking a breath. Send something to end this. A meteor, an earthquake, anything." I looked around my tiny living room, the old couch, the cheap TV, my half-eaten food. I thought about the years I had spent trying to act professional, to not cross lines, to keep my feelings hidden. Then I grabbed my jacket and my keys. "Me. I will be there in 20 minutes. Client emergency." 3 dots appeared at the bottom of the chat. "Victoria, you are the best person I know." Lumiere was one of those restaurants where the front door weighed more than my car. The floor was shiny, The lights were warm and soft. The staff wore suits. I had driven Victoria there before for big investor dinners, sitting in the car out front, waiting for her to come back with tired eyes and polite smiles. This time, I was walking in alone. My heart was hitting my ribs. I scanned the room. There she was, at a corner table. Victoria in a dark green dress, her hair loose over her shoulders, the picture of perfect control. The man across from her had a perfect suit, a loud watch, and a mouth that did not seem to close. He touched his cufflink while he talked like he was on stage in his own show. That had to be Garrett. Victoria's smile was tight. Her eyes were not. I took a breath and walked toward them like I had every right to storm into a date. I put a little panic into my voice. "Victoria, thank goodness I found you," I said. Her head snapped up. Relief flashed across her face so fast it almost hurt to see it. "Marcus, what is wrong?" she asked. "We have a major problem with the Meridian Partnership," I said, saying the first fake name that popped into my head. "Their CEO is threatening to walk unless we send updated projections tonight. I tried everything from my laptop, but I cannot access the files without your authorization. None of this was real. Meridian did not exist." But Garrett did not know that. Garrett rolled his eyes and set down his wine glass a bit too hard. "How unprofessional to interrupt dinner like this. Surely this can wait until Monday." $4 million cannot wait until Monday, Victoria said in a cool voice I had only heard in high-pressure meetings. She stood up, picking up her clutch. "I am very sorry, Garrett. This is what running a company looks like. Emergencies do not follow schedules. You are leaving our date. For your assistant," he said, the word assistant sharp like an insult. "I am leaving to save my company," she replied. "Thank you for dinner." She did not look back. I followed her out through the heavy glass doors. The cool autumn air hit us after the warm, expensive smell of the restaurant. For a few seconds, we just stood there on the sidewalk with the city buzzing around us. Then Victoria started laughing. Not a soft, polite laugh. A real one. Her whole face changed, eyes crinkling, shoulders shaking. "There is no Meridian Partnership, is there?" she asked. I tried to look innocent. "I do not know what you are talking about." "Marcus Chen," she said, still laughing. "Did you just invent a fake business crisis to rescue me from a horrible date?" "You texted for help," I said. "I helped." She went quiet. Her eyes were on mine. Then she stepped forward and wrapped her arms around me. Right there. On the sidewalk. In that expensive part of town. I froze for a moment. Then I hugged her back. She fit against me like we had practiced it. Her perfume smelled like flowers, and something warm I could never name. "Thank you," she said softly against my shoulder. "You have no idea how much I needed that." When she pulled back, her eyes looked brighter, not sad, just full. "Want to get real food?" I asked before fear could stop me. That place looked like it served food for people who do not like eating. She laughed again. "I would love that," she said. We ended up at Maggie's, a 24-hour cafe 2 blocks from my apartment. Cracked booths. Old jukebox. Sticky menus. The smell of coffee and fries. It was the opposite of Lumiere. Victoria sat across from me in her fancy dress, looking out of place and happier than she had all week. "This feels more like me," she said, smiling at the menu. "Maybe that is my problem. I keep having dinner in the wrong kind of places with the wrong kind of people." "Wrong kind of people?" I asked. She looked up at me, very steady. "People who do not see me," she said. "Not really." My heart beat faster. "You will find someone who does," I said. "Maybe I already have," she replied quietly. "Maybe I am just too scared to admit it." Quote. The jukebox hummed in the background, the smell of coffee in the air, her words hanging between us like a secret I was not ready to touch. And that was the moment I realized my life was not just changing, it had already changed. Maggie's became our place that night. The waitress, Betty, walked over with her pad in hand and a tired smile. Her name tag was a little crooked like always. "The usual, Marcus?" she asked. "Yeah, please." "And whatever she wants," I said. Victoria studied the menu like it was a contract she had to sign. "I want a cheeseburger and fries," she said. "Extra pickles." Betty grinned. "I like her," she told me, then walked away. Victoria leaned her elbows on the table. "So tell me something," she said. "How did you know I needed rescuing?" My text was pretty short. I could have joked about her message sounding desperate. I could have lied. Instead, I told her the truth, or at least some of it. "When you are actually enjoying yourself, you forget your phone exists," I said. "You were texting me, which meant you wanted to be anywhere else." Quote. She blinked like I had surprised her. "You noticed that?" I noticed everything about her. The way she added cream to her coffee when she thought no one was looking, even though she always asked for it black in meetings. The silver necklace she wore on days that mattered to her. The way her voice changed when she was really tired. "Part of my job is paying attention," I said. "Right," she said softly. "Your job." Something crossed her face that I could not name. Then our food arrived, and we both acted like we had not felt that strange little pause. We ate and talked about safe things at first. Work. The board. A new project. But as the night went on and our plates emptied, the talk shifted. "My mom thinks I am going to end up alone," Victoria said, dipping a fry in ketchup. "She keeps setting me up like she is speed-running my love life. Every week, a new perfect man with a big title." "And none of them are what you want?" I asked. She shook her head. "They are all fine on paper. Good jobs, good families, good teeth. But they look at me and only see the CEO, the money, the company, not me." "What do you want?" I asked before I could stop myself. She really thought about it. That was one thing about Victoria. She never gave easy answers just to fill silence. "I want what my parents had," she said finally. "Before my dad died, they were a team. They built things together. They pushed each other, but they were on the same side." Her eyes dropped to the table. "I want someone who actually sees me, not the image, not the headlines, just me." My chest tightened. I saw her, every day. But I was her assistant, the guy who brought her coffee and scheduled her dentist appointments. I forced a smile. "You will find that person," I told her. "Someone who really sees you." "Maybe," she said. "Or maybe I already have, and I am just a coward." Before I could ask what she meant, her phone buzzed. She glanced at it and sighed. "My mother," she muttered. "She is probably checking if I am still with Garrett." "Do you want to answer?" I asked. "If I do not, she will keep calling," she said. She picked up and slipped into that careful daughter voice. "Hi, Mom." "Yes, the date ended early. Work emergency?" "No, it was not Marcus's fault." "No, he is not my boyfriend." "Mom, I have to go." "Goodbye." She hung up and dropped the phone on the table. "She already has someone new in mind," Victoria said, rubbing her forehead. "Her tennis instructor. She says he has strong shoulders and a strong portfolio." I laughed. At least she is consistent. "Next time she sets something up, can you rescue me again?" Victoria asked. "I will pay you overtime." "You do not have to pay me," I said. "Then why would you do it?" she asked. "Because I love you. Because I want every excuse to see you outside the office. Because I hate the thought of you sitting with some guy who does not deserve you. Because that is what friends do," I said instead. Over the next 2 months, it turned into our pattern. Her mom would set up a date. Victoria would go, dressed perfect and polite. After 20 or 30 minutes of boredom or bragging or fake laughs, I would get a text. Another one. "Please save me." Or, he just used the word synergy 3 times in one sentence. Help. I always came. Sometimes I pretended the server had messed up a big order for a company event. Sometimes I said a major client was threatening to leave. Once I said the office server room had flooded. That one made her almost choke on her wine, trying not to laugh. Every time she would leave with a sweet apology and a firm handshake. Every time we ended up back at Maggie's. Betty started giving us knowing looks and adding extra coffee refills to our bill without asking. Those nights became my favorite part of the week. At Maggie's, she was not CEO Victoria Reed. She was just Victoria. The woman who loved greasy fries and old songs on the jukebox. The woman who missed her dad. The woman who stayed too late at the office because going home alone felt worse. I fell harder. Of course I did. Sometimes I thought maybe she felt it too. Her hand brushing mine and staying there just a second too long. The way her eyes softened when I talked about my dream of writing a book someday. How she listened like it mattered. But I never said anything. I knew the rules. Boss and assistant was already a line. Boss and assistant in love was a mess. Then one Saturday, everything changed. She sent a message around 7. Another setup. His name is Ethan. Management consultant. My mother is thrilled. Will you be on standby? Always, I wrote back. I grabbed my jacket and my keys and headed for my car, already thinking of what fake crisis I would use. Maybe a data breach this time. Those always sounded serious. I was halfway across town when my car made a horrible grinding noise. The steering wheel jerked. The engine coughed and then died. I coasted into a small parking lot and tried the key again. Nothing. Cold panic grabbed me. I checked my phone. No signal. I held it up, moved around the car until the bars came back. 1 bar. 2. Then finally 3. I tried calling Victoria. It went straight to voicemail. She always put her phone on silent during dates, trying to be polite even when she wanted to run away. I texted her. Car broke down. I am so sorry. Trying to fix it. I stared at the screen, waiting for the 3 dots. Nothing. For the next 20 minutes I called tow truck companies. Everyone was busy. I watched the time climb past when I was supposed to arrive. I imagined Victoria sitting in some fancy restaurant, checking her phone under the table, looking for my name, wondering why I was not there. By the time the tow truck finally showed up, it was too late. My car got lifted away. My savings went into the driver's hands. I got dropped off outside my apartment with oil on my jeans and a sick feeling in my stomach. I checked my phone again. Still no reply. I took a shower, sat on the edge of my bed, stared at my phone like I could force it to light up. It finally did, almost an hour later. Do not worry about it, her message said. Ethan is actually really nice. We are going to grab coffee. I read those words over and over. Ethan is actually really nice. The next week, she went on 3 more dates with him. She came into the office with a new lightness in her step. She mentioned the restaurants they tried, the way he made her laugh, how easy it was to talk to him. He might be the one, she said one afternoon, standing by my desk with 2 coffees in her hands. Is that crazy? Not crazy, I said, even though it felt like my ribs were cracking from the inside. When you know, you know. I smiled. I nodded. I made jokes. And every time she said his name, something inside me broke a little more. That weekend, sitting alone in my apartment, I made a choice. I could not do this forever. I could not sit at my desk every day, smiling while she told me about Ethan and their perfect dates. I could not keep pretending I was fine while watching her build a life with someone else. There was an open position at Apex Solutions, a rival company across town. Better pay. Good benefits. New start. Distance. I had saved enough to survive a change. Even with the car repair, I could manage. I sat at my desk and opened a blank document. After 3 years of dedicated service, I wrote, I am writing to inform you of my decision to pursue a new opportunity. The rest of the letter was simple. 2 weeks. Notice. Thank you for everything. Professional. Clean. No mention of the real reason my hands were shaking. On Monday morning, I printed the letter and slid it into an envelope. Victoria's name went on the front in my neatest handwriting. I walked into her office before she arrived. The room was quiet and still. Her desk was neat. The photo of her parents sat on the left. The silly mug I bought her last Christmas that said "World's Okayest Boss" sat on the right. I put the envelope in the center of her desk where she could not miss it. Then I went back to my own desk and tried not to throw up. At 8:30, I heard her heels in the hallway. She walked in humming, holding 2 coffees. One for her, one for me. She wore a blue dress that made her eyes look softer. She looked happy. That almost broke me more than anything. She stepped into her office. I watched through the glass as she saw the envelope. She picked it up, turned it over, saw her name. The humming stopped. Her shoulders stiffened. She opened it. Her eyes moved across the page. Then she looked up at me through the glass. "Marcus," she said, her voice sharp even through the door. "What is this?" Quote. My legs felt heavy, but I forced myself to stand and walk into her office. "We should talk in here," I said. She closed the door. The office suddenly seemed too small, the city too big outside the windows. "You are leaving," she said. Not a question. A statement. "Apex Solutions made me an offer," I said. My voice sounded like it belonged to someone else. "It is a good opportunity. Better pay. More room to grow. I think it is time." She stared at me, eyes wide, the letter crumpling slightly in her hand. "Move forward," she repeated. "You want to move forward?" "Yes," I said. "This is because of Ethan," she said quietly. "What? No, it is not." "Do not lie to me, Marcus," she cut in. Now her voice had an edge I had never heard pointed at me before. "In 3 years, you never once talked about leaving. Now he shows up and suddenly you hand me a resignation letter. Do you think I am stupid?" "Of course not," I said at once. "You are the smartest person I know. This is not about—" "Then what is it about?" she demanded, standing so fast her chair rolled back. "Tell me the truth. Why are you really leaving?" Her eyes were blazing, her jaw was tight. For the first time since I met her, Victoria Reed looked scared, and there was nowhere left for me to run. I opened my mouth to say another safe lie, something about new challenges, about career growth, about timing. The words would not come out. I was tired. Tired of pretending I was fine. Tired of hearing Ethan's name and acting like my heart was not breaking. Tired of walking into this office every day like it was just a job. "I am leaving because I cannot do this anymore," I said quietly. Her eyes narrowed. "Do what?" "Come in here every morning and act like I am just your assistant," I said. "Smile when you tell me about your dates. Take notes while you talk about how great Ethan is. Be professional when all I want to do is tell you the truth." Her voice lowered. "What truth?" I took a breath that felt like jumping off a cliff. "That I am in love with you," I said. The words hung in the air between us. There was no taking them back now. "I have been in love with you for years," I went on. "Since my first month here, when you stayed late to help me learn the system even though you had an investor dinner. Since you brought me coffee the day my car broke down and you remembered the way I take it without asking. Since you called me at 2 in the morning because you could not sleep and you needed someone to talk to about your dad." My hands were shaking. I did not try to hide it. "I fell in love with the way you care about everyone. With the way you laugh at my stupid jokes. With the way you order too much food because you want to try everything. Those rescue missions were not just about saving you from bad dates. They were the best nights of my week because I got to sit with you at Maggie's and see the real you." I laughed once, without humor, and then Ethan showed up. I said, "He is perfect, smart, successful, on your level. He can take you to fancy places and talk about investments without looking up the words. He is what everyone says you should want. I am just the guy at the front desk who brings you coffee and makes fake emergencies." Quote. I looked at her and it felt like my ribs were open. "So yes," I finished. "I am leaving because I cannot watch you fall in love with him and keep acting like I am happy for you. I cannot stand here and hold your coat while you walk into a life that does not have me in it. I am not strong enough for that." The silence that followed was so deep I could hear the hum of the air conditioner. Out in the open office, phones rang and keyboards clicked. In here, everything was still. Victoria stared at me. Her face was unreadable. No smile, no anger, just shock. "Are you done?" she asked softly. My throat was dry. "Yes." "Good," she said. "Because now you are going to listen." She came around the desk and stopped right in front of me. We were only a step apart. I could smell her perfume again. The one that always made me think of the first time I drove her to a meeting in spring. "I broke up with Ethan yesterday," she said. My brain tripped. "What?" "I ended it," she said. "After dinner. He is a good man, kind, smart, everything my mother wanted for me. But the whole week I kept comparing him to you. Every joke he made, I wondered if you would have found it funny. Every restaurant we went to, I wished you were sitting across from me instead. Every time he reached for my hand, I pulled away because it felt wrong." She took a breath. "It did not feel like you," she said. My chest tightened. "But you seemed so happy," I said. "You said he might be the one." "I was trying to convince myself," she said, "because I thought you did not feel the same way. Do you know how long I have been in love with you, Marcus?" I just stared at her. "Since you brought me homemade soup when I had the flu," she said. "Second month you worked here. I told you once in passing that my grandmother used to make chicken soup when I was sick. You showed up at my apartment that night with a pot of soup and you looked so nervous I thought you might drop it. It tasted terrible, by the way." I choked out a laugh. "I found the recipe online. I guessed on the salt." "It was awful," she said, smiling a little. "But you stayed and watched a movie with me and kept checking my temperature. No one had taken care of me like that since my dad died." Her smile faded. "I told myself it was just a crush," she went on. "Something that would fade. You were my assistant. I was your boss. It was messy and dangerous and wrong. So I kept it inside. I kept it professional. I let my mother set me up with all those men because it felt safer than admitting how I felt about you. I felt like the floor had tilted under my feet. All those nights at Maggie's," I said. "All those rescue missions. All that time. I was hoping," she said simply, "hoping you were jealous. Hoping you would slip and say something. But you never did. You kept showing up, fixing my problems, making me laugh, and then calling me boss the next morning like we had not spent hours together." She reached for my hand. Her fingers threaded through mine like they had always been meant to fit there. "When your car broke down and you did not come to rescue me from Ethan," she said, "I decided to give him a real chance. I thought maybe I had made you into something bigger in my head. Maybe I was wrong about what I felt. Maybe I should pick the safe thing." Her grip tightened. "It did not work," she said. "Everything with him felt like pretending. I kept thinking, this is the kind of man my mother wants. This is the kind of life people expect me to have. And all I wanted was you in a cracked booth at Maggie's talking about books and stupid documentaries." I swallowed hard. "And now," she said, her voice getting softer, "I find a resignation letter on my desk. Now you stand here and tell me you are leaving because you cannot bear to watch me with someone I have already let go of. Do you have any idea how terrifying that is?" I looked at our joined hands. "I did not think I had the right to tell you," I said. "You are Victoria Reed. You are on magazine covers. People quote you in articles. What could I give you that you do not already have?" "You," she said. One word, simple, heavy. "I do not need another investor or another board seat," she said. "I need the person who remembers how I take my coffee, the one who makes sure I eat on days I would forget, the one who drives across town at midnight to pull me out of nightmare dates with men who only talk about themselves." She lifted my hand and pressed it to her chest. I could feel her heart beating fast. "I love you, Marcus," she said. "I am in love with you. And I am terrified that you are still going to walk out of here in 2 weeks and never look back." My head spun. This had been my dream for 3 years. To hear those words from her, part of me still thought I was going to wake up in my tiny apartment holding a cold coffee cup. "I am still taking the job at Apex," I said slowly. I watched the hope in her eyes flicker. "But not because I do not want you," I added quickly. "Because if we are going to do this, we have to do it right." "Do what?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Be together," I said. "Really together. I cannot be your assistant and your boyfriend at the same time. People will talk. They will say you promoted me because of our relationship, or that I am using you to get ahead. It will not be fair to you or the company." Understanding softened her features. "So you would leave to be with me," she said. "I would do anything to be with you," I said. "I have spent 3 years loving you from across your desk. I am done with distance." For a second, she just looked at me. Then she stepped closer, closing the last bit of space between us. "Good," she said. And then she kissed me. Her hand slid up to my neck. Her lips were warm and sure. The world outside the glass walls faded into soft shapes. There were phones ringing, people walking by, some poor intern probably dropping his coffee outside, but in that moment, it was just us. The woman I loved. The job I was leaving. The life we were about to step into, even if we had no idea what it would look like. When we finally pulled back, we were both breathing hard. Her forehead rested against mine. "I have wanted to do that for so long," I whispered. Her smile was small and shaky and real. "Me too," she said. Reality slipped back in around the edges. I could feel eyes on us through the glass. People were definitely pretending to work while watching the show. "Everyone saw that," I said. "Let them," she replied, glancing toward the door, then back at me. "You are right, though. You cannot work for me if we are going to do this properly." "So we agree," I said. "I finish my 2 weeks. I train the new assistant. I start my new job." "And after that," she said, her fingers still tangled with mine, "after hours, weekends, mornings, whenever we can, you are not my assistant anymore. You are mine." My heart felt too big for my chest. "Deal," I said. We spent the next hour going over details instead of emails, not contracts. Us. How we would keep things professional until my last day. How we would handle questions from the team. How we would tell her mother, if we told her at all. By the time we opened the office door again, the whole floor went silent for a full 2 seconds, before everyone suddenly remembered they had work to do. Victoria walked back to her desk with her CEO face on. I went back to mine. On the surface, nothing had changed. Inside, everything had. Keeping things professional for 2 weeks when you have already kissed your boss is not easy. We tried. During the day, we were back to our old roles. She was CEO. I was assistant. Meetings, emails, schedules. No lingering looks, no touching, no inside jokes that went too far. At least, that was the plan. But sometimes I would look up from my desk and catch her watching me through the glass. She would look away fast, cheeks a little pink, then call me in to talk about quarterly goals like nothing had happened. At lunch, she would pass by my desk and say, "Do not forget to eat," in that soft voice that only I ever heard. After work, I would go to her apartment, or she would come to mine, and we would sit close on the couch and talk about everything we had not said in the last 3 years. We learned simple things that felt huge. She hated thunderstorms but loved the smell of rain on pavement. I snored a little when I slept on my back. She liked to read before bed. I liked to write little notes and leave them where she would find them later. We did not rush into the physical part. We already knew how it felt to kiss. Now we learned how it felt to be quiet together, to cook in the same kitchen, to argue about what movie to watch, to fall asleep with her head on my chest while the TV played something neither of us was really watching. At work, gossip grew like ivy. People tried to be subtle. They were not. Once, I walked into the break room and 2 managers stopped talking mid-sentence. Another time, I heard someone whisper, "Do you think he is leaving because they are dating now?" The rumor spread, but Victoria never changed her behavior as CEO. She stayed steady and fair. If anything, she was even more careful to treat me like everyone else in public. On my last day, the office threw a small goodbye party. Balloons. A cake with my name on it. People made little speeches about how I always knew where every file was and how I could fix any printer jam like magic. Victoria waited until the end. She stood at the front of the conference room with a paper plate and a plastic fork in her hand like everyone else. "Marcus has been here 3 years," she said. "He has been the calm voice when things went wrong. The person behind the scenes who made sure I was in the right city on the right day. Horizon would not be where it is without him." It was simple, professional, her CEO voice. But when everyone clapped and drifted back to their desks, she stayed behind. I started picking up paper cups and napkins to give my hands something to do. "I wanted to say something else," she said when the door closed and it was just us. I turned to her. "I am proud of you," she said. "You could have stayed here forever, hiding behind my schedule and my work. You chose something wider. You chose to bet on yourself." I swallowed hard. "I am still scared." "So am I," she said. "But I would rather be scared with you than safe without you." I set the trash bag down and stepped closer. "Then we will be scared together," I said. That night, after everyone else had gone, I walked through the empty office one last time. I touched the back of my old chair. I looked at the city through the windows one more time. It felt like walking out of an old life. Victoria met me at the elevator. No glass walls, no coworkers, Just her in a soft sweater and jeans, not the sharp dresses she wore during the day. "Ready?" she asked. "No," I said honestly, "but I am going anyway." She smiled. Good. Time passed. I started at Apex Solutions. The work was challenging in a way I had not experienced before. New systems. New people. New expectations. I was not the assistant anymore. I was a project manager with my own team. I made mistakes. I learned fast. I stayed late sometimes. But now, late nights did not end with me alone in my tiny apartment. They ended with Victoria dropping by with dinner, or me taking the train to her place, falling onto her couch while she slid her feet into my lap. Our lives slowly separated from the old pattern. I was no longer the person who carried her bags into meetings. She was no longer the distant figure behind a glass wall. We became something new. 2 months later, we went back to Maggie's for the first time as a couple. Betty looked us up and down, hands on her hips. "Took you long enough," she said. "You knew?" I asked. She rolled her eyes. "Honey, I have watched you two stare at each other over coffee for years. Anyone with eyes knew." We laughed and slid into our booth. This time, when our hands brushed on the table, we did not move them away. We left them there, fingers tangled in plain sight. On a warm afternoon in late spring, Victoria showed up outside my office with a picnic basket. "Are we having some kind of corporate lunch?" I asked. "Something like that," she said. "Come on." We walked to Riverside Park and found a bench facing the water. She spread out sandwiches, fruit, and a small container of chocolate cookies. We ate in comfortable silence for a while. The river moved slow and gray. Kids played nearby. A dog chased a stick like it was the most important job in the world. "I have been thinking," she said finally. "Always a little scary when you say that," I joked. She nudged my knee with hers. "I built Horizon because I wanted stability," she said. "Security, success. For a long time, that was all I could see. Grow the company. Impress the board. Make my mother proud. Be the person everyone expected." She looked at me. "I am starting to want something else too," she said. "More time, more life, more us." I watched her, waiting. "I am not quitting Horizon," she said, "but I am reorganizing. I am bringing in a COO to handle day-to-day operations. I will stay CEO, but I want space for other things." "What other things?" I asked. She reached into the basket and pulled out a folder. She handed it to me. Inside were printed pages, listings for small commercial spaces, photos of empty rooms with big windows, numbers circled in red. "Oak Street," I read. "This is near my neighborhood." "There is a corner space there with good foot traffic," she said. "Nice windows, reasonable rent. It would be perfect for a bookstore. You told me once that if you were brave, you would open a bookstore with a little cafe. A place where people could sit all day with stories and coffee." I remembered saying that on one of those late Maggie's nights, when my guard was down and the jukebox was playing a slow song. "You remembered that," I said. "I remember everything you tell me," she replied. "I was thinking maybe we could open it together. You choose the books. I handle the business side. We both make coffee. Partner in every way." I stared at the pages in my hands. The idea felt huge and scary and perfect. "A bookstore with you," I said slowly. "Are you serious?" "I have never been more serious," she said. "I want to build something with you that is not just about growth charts and quarterly goals. I want to build a life that feels like ours. We can still have our own careers, but this can be ours together." I looked at her and realized this was another moment, like that first urgent text, a small choice that could change everything. "Then let us do it," I said. "Let us be brave again." 7 months later, I stood inside a space that smelled like fresh paint and cardboard. The sign out front said Chun and Reed Books in simple black letters. Shelves lined the walls, half filled with books I loved and wanted to share. A small coffee counter sat in the corner. There were armchairs by the windows. A little bell over the door jingled when someone came in. Victoria walked up beside me and slipped her hand into mine. "What do you think?" she asked. "I think I cannot believe this is real," I said. "I think this is everything I ever wanted and was too scared to want." She leaned her head on my shoulder. "Funny," she said. "That is exactly how I feel about you." The day we opened, a line formed outside before we even unlocked the door. People came in, touching the spines, smelling the coffee, asking for recommendations. We moved around each other like we had been doing this for years, handing off customers, making drinks, laughing when the register got stuck, and both of us had to wrestle it open. At closing time, we flipped the sign to "Closed" and stood in the middle of the store, surrounded by quiet and the soft smell of paper. "Not bad for our first day," I said. "Not bad for a former CEO and her former assistant," she said. "Current partners," I corrected. "In business, in life." She smiled and pulled me close. Sometimes, late at night when the store is dark and the street outside is quiet, I sit on one of the chairs and think back to that first message on my phone. Emergency. This is a disaster. Please help. I did not know then that I was not just rescuing her from a boring guy who loved talking about buildings. I was stepping into my own life. I was saving myself from staying small and afraid. All it took was one choice to get off my couch. One fake business crisis. One late night at a greasy diner. One impossible confession in a glass office. I helped my CEO escape a horrible date, not knowing she had feelings for me. In the end, we did what we both wanted all along. We rescued each other,